Hey, this is Alex Cordobar. It's been quite a long time since I've last done a Blender tutorial, or since you guys have heard from me. I think about 2 years by now, so I'm happy to be back. And you know, if you've been subscribed to me, or you've commented, or sent me a message, or viewed my videos, or liked them, I just want to thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I just thought I wanted to jump back into this, add value to you guys, teach you guys a couple of things, and hopefully, you know, just get back on this journey of creating some awesome things in Blender. And let's jump right into it. In this tutorial, I want to start it off nice and slow and pretty easy for especially new beginners, because yeah, I've been on a 2-year hiatus. I still remember quite a bit of things, but you know, just to start it off nice and slow, in this tutorial we're going to be making a mug or a coffee cup. We're going to be making a sexy mug. Well, I don't know if it's going to be that sexy, but we're going to be making a cup, and I'm going to be showing you and going through all the keys and the basics of how to do it step by step, as if you're a new beginner. Because I know for me personally, when I first opened up Blender, it was so overwhelming that I closed it. So this tutorial is especially for new beginners if you're just starting out. You know, when I first opened up Blender, I made a cube and then a second cube, and that excited me like nothing else. So if your first thing that you make in Blender is a mug, I mean, you're gonna be blown away, and it's gonna be pretty fun. So alright, let's get right into it. If you don't have Blender already, head on over to blender.org, and you can see that we're greeted with our 3D scene right here. So this is where all the magic happens. And you can see that we have a cube there. And how the heck are we going to make a mug with a cube? Well, we're not going to make it with a cube, but we are going to make a mug, and it's going to be pretty cool and fun. So this is how we're going to do it. Couple things right off the bat. How to move around the 3D scene. If you middle mouse click and move, you will see that you can rotate around your scene. If you hold shift, middle mouse click, you can pan around your scene, and if you scroll your mouse wheel up and down, you can zoom in and out. Now don't worry, on the side or somewhere, either in the description or on the side of the video or on the video itself, I'm going to have a little menu showing you what every key is. For example, middle mouse click is to move around or rotate. I'm going to have a little sheet that shows you what buttons do what. So the first thing we need to do is delete our cube. So in order to do that, hit X and delete. Now we're going to add a reference image, which is going to be in the description down below. So the way we want to do that is hit N on our keyboard, go to background image, select background image, add image, and open it, and find wherever you saved your image. Now, like I said, it's going to be down in the description. Now, we added our image, but there's nothing there. Well, what we have to do is first, let's go right here. You can see that we're in user perspective. So if we hit 1 on the numpad, we could go into front perspective. So we're in the front view. And now if we hit 5 on our numpad, we could go into orthographic view. Now, I'm not going to explain too much about perspective and orthographic. They're just different ways of viewing your scene. In short, perspective, you have depth and 3D look to it. In orthographic, it's like a flat image and there's no depth to your scene. So now let's make our cup or our mug over here. Let's go ahead and hit Shift A, and Shift A is the key that's used to add all kinds of different things. You can add objects, you can add all kinds of interesting things, as you can see right here, but for now we're just going to focus on mesh, and we're going to add a circle. Now if I move around with the middle mouse button, you can see that it's added a circle, and we can move this around by hitting G on our keyboard and right clicking to undo, or left clicking to confirm that movement. If we want to undo anything, just hit Control Z. Now you can see on this circle that if I hit tab to go into edit mode, because right now you can see that we're in object mode via this little panel right here. Object mode allows for you to manipulate the whole object. If we want to manipulate parts of the object, all we need to do is go into edit mode or hit tab on our keyboard. Now you can see by right clicking these little points on here, these are called vertices, and I have 32 of them right here. You can see from right here 32 vertices, and this allows for you to manipulate your object. If you right click one and hit G, you can move it around, and just like with the object, right click to undo, left click to confirm, and Control Z will undo if you did a movement. Now for our mug, 32 is way too much, so going back into object mode by hitting tab, I'm going to hit X and delete that. Going back into front view with 1 on the numpad, Shift A, add mesh, circle, and before we do anything, we're going to come right down here to this panel where it says vertices, going to put in 12. So now if I go into edit mode by hitting tab, you can see that I have 12 vertices, which is a lot better. A good rule to keep in mind is you want to use as little amount of vertices or faces in your scene as possible, as long as it doesn't compromise the quality of your work. So good rule of thumb is the less the better, as long as it doesn't compromise the quality of your scene or your animation. Now going into object mode, I'm going to hit G, Z, bring it all the way down to the base of the mug, G and X to bring it along. If you hit G, you can move it in any direction. If you hit G and Z, X, or Y, it constrains it to that axis. You can see that down here we have 3 axes, the X, Y, and Z. So whenever you grab something, you could either grab it and move it around wherever you want, or hit either Z, Y, or X, and it will constrain it along that axis. Now, going into edit mode by hitting tab, I'm going to select all the vertices by hitting A on the keyboard, make sure everything is selected, and going to hit E to extrude it. And you can see what this does. So this is pretty cool. It allows for you to pull out the mesh and add an additional set of vertices and faces. So here, when you hit E, it's already grabbed, and just like before, if we hit Z, it will constrain it to the Z axis and bring it to the top of the mug. So there you go, we have our mug. Now I'm just kidding. That looks more like a tree trunk or something, or a roll of toilet paper. So we want to round this out a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that. You can see that right now it's a little bit hard to see through my background image. So going down here, I'm going to change it from solid to wireframe, or you could hit Z on your keyboard. If it's on solid, you could see the mesh as a solid object. Z or wireframe, you could see through it like a wireframe, as the name implies. Alright, so now how do we add some additional vertices to fatten our mug up? Well, an easy way to do that is loop cuts. What loop cuts allow for you to do is really cool. It basically adds, like the name implies, a loop around your object. So if I hit Control R, you can see I get this purple line. Left click to confirm, and then you can move it to wherever you'd like. But to leave it in the default position, I'm going to right click, and it's going to leave it in the default position. However, I don't want to add just one loop. I want to add several of them. So you could do it one at a time and then hit Control R and add another one. But an easier way, if I hit Control Z to undo that, Control R again, and if you scroll your mouse wheel up or down, you could add or subtract however many loop cuts that you want. So let's go ahead and add 3, and then just right click to leave it in the default position. Now we want to select the ring and fatten it up. So we could select them one by shift right clicking, but that's a little bit tedious. So an easy way to do that is by selecting the whole loop. The way you do that is really simple. Just hold down Alt and in between two of the vertices, right click, and it will do a loop selection. Now if I hit S to scale, you can see that I could scale it up. However, the other two loop cuts are not scaling up with it, and I kind of want a fall off effect. So how do we do that? Well, an easy way is to go down here, turn on proportional editing, right here, enable it, and if I hit S now, you can see I get a circle. And if I scroll my mouse wheel up, the circle of influence will influence the other vertices around it and scale those up as well. Pretty cool. Saves you a lot of time and gives you a nice fall off. So I'm going to Alt right click that one, S to scale it up, and then the top as well, scale it up, and hit G, Z, bring it down a little bit. And now we're starting to get the look of our mug. Alright, let's go ahead and turn off proportional editing, because that thing's going to mess with us in the future for sure. So an easy way to do that is to come down here or just hit O on your keyboard. Now, if we go into object mode by hitting Z, you can see we got what's starting to look like a mug, although it could use quite a bit of work right now. Let's go back into front view, hitting 1 on the numpad, tab to go into edit mode, and making sure I'm in wireframe. I'm now going to add another loop cut to where the handles are, because we want to be able to extrude or pull out the handle from the cup. So you can see that right here I already have one aligned with the top of the handle. I'm just going to hit G and Z, bring it up a little bit, scale it up a tiny bit, and now Control R, left click, move it to about right here at the base of the handle, and left click to confirm. Let's do the same thing with the bottom one. Control R right there, Control R over here. So now if we go over here, we're going to see that we're going to pull out the handles from here. But a quick thing I actually want to do is I want to give this more of a square look, because it looks too much like a rectangle now, and the handles, if we pull them out of here, it's going to look kind of rectangular-ish. So an easy way to do that is Alt right click, and if we hit G and Z, you can see that it starts to give us a weird thing at the bottom as it comes down, because right here you're just grabbing it on the Z axis. A much better way to do this is to hit G and then hit G again, and now you go into edge slide mode, and it basically, you're able to slide the loop cut in between the other two loop cuts. That's pretty awesome. It allows for you to keep the form of the mesh without messing up the look, but still being able to move your vertices. So let's go ahead and hit G, G, bring this down to where this looks more squarish. We're going to do the same with this one, G, G, give it more of a square look. Alright, now how do we create the handles? Well, an easy way is to hit Control Tab to go into face select mode, or you can go down here and select faces. Select this face by right clicking it, and we're going to hit E to extrude it, and just like before, it extrudes it, but we don't want to bring it out. We're going to right click, and you think that it's gone, but if you hit G, the extrusion is still there. It's just been reset to its original position. And what we're going to now do is hit S to scale it down, and scale it down to about there. Let's do the same thing with this bottom one over here. Hit E to extrude, right click, S to scale it down. And this is where our handles are going to come out of. Now, selecting everything, if we go into front view, we can see that the handles are a little bit off to the side. You know, they're not facing the image. Whereas if we were to extrude them, it kind of comes out on a tilt. So what do we want to do? We want to select everything by hitting A to select everything, R to rotate, Z to rotate it along the Z axis, and we want to rotate it so that the two faces are facing the same direction as the x-axis, or the red line right here. So that now if we go into front view by hitting 1, you can see that they're directly going to come out this way. So you can also see that the handles don't quite line up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the whole mug, scale it up a little bit, move it by hitting S, and S to scale, G to move. And now selecting this face right here, going into front view, I'm going to hit E to extrude it, scale it down with S, and R to rotate and get the start of our handle going. Now you can see that it's a little bit lower. I'd like it a little bit higher. So an easy way to select all these vertices here is to go into vertex select mode by going here, or Control Tab vertex, hitting B, and you're going to get some crosshairs, which when you left click and drag allow you to select however many faces or vertices that you want. So I'm going to select all of these, hit G, Z, and bring it up just a tiny bit. Alright, now hitting B again, left clicking across these vertices so that I have this face selected here. I'm going to extrude it once more and bring it down to here. Alright, going back into face select mode, I'm going to select this bottom one, extrude it with the E key, scale it down, extrude it once more, and there we go. Alright, now you're probably thinking, how the heck are we going to fill in this gap that we have right here? I mean, I don't know of any mugs that look like this, but this could probably allow for very easy access to grabbing the handle. But personally, I want to fill it up. So let's go ahead and first delete these two faces by shift right clicking, X, faces. Control Tab, and let's go into edge select mode. So we're using all the modes here: face select, vertex select, and edge select. You just have to see which works best for what particular thing that you're doing in your scene. So if we select this edge and shift right click this one, hit F, you will see that it fills in a face. Pretty cool. So let's do that for all the other ones. Shift right click, F, and you can see that now we have the handle of our mug. Now I want to bring this down a little bit, so I'm going to go into vertex select mode, hit B to box select all this, G and Z, bring it down just a little bit. Alright, cool. Well, check out our mug. It's looking kind of like a Minecraft mug or something, because that is one blocky mug. Let's smooth it out. A good way to do that is go over here and click Shading Smooth. And it's looking better, but it's still looking pretty blocky. So a good way to do that, like, remember what I said in the beginning of the tutorial, the best thing you want to do is try to keep the amount of vertices in your mesh to a minimum. So we could go here and add 1,000 loop cuts, you know, and smooth it out, but that's not an effective way of doing that. A more effective and better way is to go over here to the modifiers, and what modifiers do is they allow for you to modify your object without actually modifying the actual mesh and destroying the mesh. Meaning, for example, here we're going to add a subdivision surface modifier, and you can see that it smooths out the mesh, but if for whatever reason we don't want it anymore, we could just delete it. Whereas if you were to add a lot of vertices, it's going to be much harder and sometimes almost impossible to get it back to how you wanted it before. So we're going to add subdivision surface. We're going to put the levels to 2, and if we go into front view, our mug is looking pretty cool right now. I mean, about as cool as a mug. I know it's not a Ferrari or something, but still, if this is, especially if this is your first Blender tutorial, I was excited when I created a mug or something simple like that. So now if I hit Z to go into edit mode, or wireframe mode, sorry, you can see all this additional geometry. This is what the mug looks like with this subdivision surface. Now, since that's a little bit confusing with all the additional lines and everything, we could click optimal display and it will only display the actual mesh that we can edit currently. Now, of course, if you were to click apply, you can see that now it's applied all those additional geometry, and now you could actually edit every single one of these points. But like I said, that's not a good way to do it. For the most part, you don't want to apply a subdivision surface modifier, because between this and having all those vertices from when I applied it, it's much harder to modify your mesh when you have 100 vertices versus just a couple of them. So let's go ahead and click optimal display to keep it a little cleaner. And you will see that here we still have the same amount of vertices, but underneath this we have all these additional vertices, which you can't actually edit, but when you move these, it's actually moving all of those additional vertices on the underneath what we can see. So it's awesome because you can keep it simple and keep it effective. So enough rambling. I just want to explain it the best possible. Let's make the base of the cup. So let's hit E to extrude, E to extrude and then Z. Bring it down a little bit, scale it in a little bit, and let's hit F to create a face. Now quickly, you can see that most faces have 4 vertices and 4 sides. When you're going to animate an object, you want to keep that in mind. You want to have as many 4-sided faces as possible. For example, right here, this is one face and it has 12 vertices and about 12 sides as well. You don't want to have this in characters that are going to animate and move their limbs, for example, because it's going to create all kinds of problems in the animation. A coffee mug, on the other hand, you're not going to animate it unless you animate the whole object itself, or unless the mug is a character itself that's going to be walking and moving around. So for this, it's completely fine to add a face that has more than 4 vertices connected to it. Now we're going to add the top or the rim, so E to extrude, S to scale it in. Scale it into about here or however thick you want it, and Z to go into edit mode, E to extrude, and hit Z to bring it down. Scale it in, and this is going to be the inside of our mug. And then once again hit F to fill in that hole right there. Now just like we did with the outside, let's round this out a little bit on the inside. So Control R once again. Control R, and on the inside ring, let's add another 3 loop cuts by scrolling your mouse wheel up. Right click to select the default position. Alt right click the middle loop, and let's enable proportional editing once again. Now if we scale it up, you can see that we're having a problem here. It's scaling up the inside of the mug and the outside. I mean, unless you want that look, I don't know, but that's not what we're going for. So an easy way to do that is to go to proportional editing and select connected. Now if you hit S, when you scale it up, it's only going to affect the other parts of the mesh that are connected to it, hence the inside part of the cup. So if I hit S, you can see that it's affecting only the mesh that's inside the cup. That's pretty cool, and that allows for us easy manipulation of this object. Now let's turn this off again, and just a couple last things before we finish off our mug. I want to add a loop cut here to bring the edges a little bit sharper, because when you add subdivision surface, it actually gives it a rounded fall off between the two vertices. So for example, from here to here, it's rounding it off and smoothing it out. So if you add another loop cut, and left click and right click to confirm. Now it's rounding it off from here to here and from here to here. So it gives it a sharper look in between. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the handles over here because there's too much of a smoothness. I mean, there are some mugs like that, but for me personally, I'm going to hit Control R, left click, and bring it very closely to this other vertice. So now there's a sharper fall off right there. And right here as well, you can see that right now it's smoothing it out from here to here and from here to all the way over here. So if we add a loop cut, it's actually a sharper fall off. And now we got a pretty cool looking mug. Now you can see that right here, it's a little bit sharper right here, and I don't quite like that. So if we hit Alt right click to select this edge loop, G twice to go into edge slide mode, you can see that if we slide this closer to the other loop, it's going to give it a much sharper look to it. However, if we hit G twice and move it further away, it's going to have a smoother fall off. So like I said, if you want sharper creases and sharper looks, just add another loop cut and bring it in closer, and you can see that it gives it a sharper look because the fall off is closer from here to here than it would be from here to here. Let me see if I could see it in the... If I turn off optimal display, for example, you will see that it's a little bit hard to see here, but you will see that whenever loops are closer together or there's more loops condensed in one place, that the subsurface adds a lot more additional geometry. You can see that right here, there's more loop cuts and more geometry added to it. And for that reason, it gives it a sharper fall off and not as smooth. So I don't want to get too complicated into the subdivision surface, but just keep that in mind. If you'd like to create sharper edges or loops, just add extra vertices or geometry around it. If you want to delete an edge loop, just Alt right click it, X, and select edge loops, and it will delete the edge loop. Alright, cool. Well, there you go. There's your sexy mug. I mean, I'm not going to go into adding materials in this tutorial because I think I've already gone way longer than expected. But hope that this added some value to you. Maybe in another tutorial I'll show how to add material. But I mean, if this is your first tutorial especially, congrats. Thank you for watching. Hope this added value to you. Feel free to leave a comment, like the video, subscribe, and if you guys need any help with anything, ask me. I'm more than happy and willing to help you with anything that you want, as long as I know if I can help you or not. Alright, hope you have a good one, and take care. Bye.